On a quiet afternoon in October 1997, one of the most beloved voices in America climbed into a small experimental airplane. Just minutes later, something went terribly wrong. Witnesses along the California coast watched in horror as the aircraft suddenly lost control and plunged into the ocean. Inside that plane was John Denver, the gentle voice behind songs that had comforted millions of people for decades. Within moments, the man who sang about country roads, sunshine, and peaceful mountains was gone forever. But what many fans didn't realize is that the events leading to that tragic flight were far more complicated than they appeared. For millions of listeners, John Denver's music felt like a warm memory. When people heard songs like Take Me Home, Country Roads, they didn't just hear a melody, they felt something deeper. His music spoke about simple things: nature, family, love, and the beauty of the world around us. At a time when music was becoming louder and more rebellious, John Denver offered something different. He offered peace. Born Henry John Deutschendorf Jr. in 1943, John grew up moving from place to place because his father was an Air Force pilot. As a child, he often felt lonely. Music became his escape. When his grandmother gave him a guitar as a teenager, it changed his life forever. In the 1960s, John Denver moved to Los Angeles, hoping to become a professional musician. At first, success seemed very far away. He struggled to find opportunities and spent years performing in small clubs. But everything changed when he wrote a song called Leaving on a Jet Plane. The song became a massive hit after it was recorded by the folk trio Peter, Paul, and Mary. Suddenly, the young songwriter from New Mexico was gaining attention. Soon after, John began recording his own music, and by the early 1970s, his career exploded. During the 1970s, John Denver became one of the biggest music stars in the world. Songs like Take Me Home, Country Roads, Rocky Mountain High, Annie's Song quickly became classics. But what made John Denver special wasn't just his voice. It was the sincerity in his music. Fans believed every word he sang. When he sang about the beauty of the mountains or the comfort of home, people felt like he truly meant it. And he did. John Denver loved nature deeply. He spent much of his time in Colorado, surrounded by the mountains that inspired so many of his songs. To his fans, he seemed like a man who had found the perfect balance between fame and happiness. But behind the scenes, life was becoming more complicated. As the years passed, the pressure of fame began to affect John's personal life. Touring constantly and living in the public eye took a toll on his relationships. His marriage to Annie, the woman who inspired Annie's song, eventually ended in divorce. For fans who loved that beautiful love song, the news was heartbreaking. John Denver also faced criticism from some people in the music industry. His gentle, optimistic style didn't always fit with the changing music trends of the 1980s. But despite the criticism, his fans remained loyal. They continued attending his concerts and singing along to the songs that had become part of their lives. There was another passion in John Denver's life that many fans didn't know much about: flying. Just like his father, John loved airplanes. He earned his pilot's license and spent many hours flying small aircraft. For him, flying was more than a hobby. It was a sense of freedom. High above the clouds, he could escape the pressures of fame and simply enjoy the beauty of the world below. But flying also came with risks, and one particular airplane would change everything. In 1997, John Denver purchased a small experimental aircraft called the Rutan Long-EZ. The airplane was known for its unusual design and excellent performance. However, it had one serious problem. The fuel selector valve was located behind the pilot's shoulder. To switch fuel tanks, the pilot had to reach backward. something that could be difficult while flying. Experienced pilots had already warned that this design could be dangerous. But on October 12, 1997, John Denver decided to take the aircraft on a short flight near Monterey Bay, California. That afternoon, the weather was clear. Witnesses watched as the small plane took off and flew smoothly along the coastline. But only a short time later, something went terribly wrong. Investigators later believed that John Denver attempted to switch fuel tanks during the flight. To reach the valve behind his shoulder, he may have had to twist his body while controlling the aircraft. At that critical moment, the plane likely lost stability. Within seconds, it flipped and plunged into the Pacific Ocean. There was no time to recover. John Denver was only 53 years old. When the news broke, fans around the world were stunned. For many people, John Denver had always represented calmness, warmth, and optimism. The idea that his life ended in such a sudden and tragic accident was difficult to accept. Radio stations played his songs throughout the day. Listeners called in to share their memories of concerts, road trips, and moments in life that were connected to his music. For millions of people, his songs were part of their personal history. Today, decades later, John Denver's music continues to touch new generations. Take Me Home, Country Roads remains one of the most beloved songs ever written. His music is still played at family gatherings, road trips, and quiet moments at home. And for many listeners, hearing his voice brings back memories of a simpler time. A time when music felt honest. A time when songs about mountains, sunshine, and home could unite people across the world. John Denver may have left us far too soon, but the message in his music still lives on. A reminder that sometimes the most powerful songs are the ones that simply speak from the heart. And perhaps that is why, even today, when those first notes begin to play, millions of people still feel the same thing. They feel like they're finally on their way home.